Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first lesson of psychology. Unit 1 is going to start today. We are going to split this unit into a couple of different lessons. Lesson 1, which is what today is over, is the introduction to psychology. So you can see there on the screen what we are going to cover today, which is the definition of psychology, a brief history of psychology, and the contemporary approaches to psychology. I'm going to split this lesson into a few different videos. We are going to essentially cover different ideas in the different videos. You will need to take the quizzes after each video just to double check that I know that you've watched the videos and you kind of understand the content. Today we're going to specifically talk about just a brief introduction into psychology and the study of psychology. So today's major objectives, and essentially what we're going to split this lesson into, is the three different objectives. And you can see those on the screen. We're going to examine historical factors that influence the popularity of a selected perspective. We're going to explain the different approaches to studying behavior. And remember, we're talking about animal and human behavior. And we're going to list a couple of careers that are possible in the field of psychology. So let's get going with this first video. We're going to essentially define what psychology is. Psychology, there on your screen, can be divided into two different parts. The word psyche, they both come from the Greek language, but the word psyche means the spirit or the breath of life. The word logos means the study of. So essentially we're looking at the study of life, but we're not studying biology, and that's where a lot of people tend to get a little bit confused. Because of the intricate nature of psychology, we're going to use this definition. It is the science or study of behavior and mental processes. We're going to spend some time focusing on the connections between the mind and the body. We're going to look at physical states, we're going to look at mental states, and when we talk about those, we talk about the physical state being the physiological processes, and we talk about the mental states being those cognitive processes. So things like emotion and memory and language. And we're going to also define psychology as a science. Psychology has a lot of different roots. We have roots in biology, we have roots in the soft sciences like history and philosophy. But what makes psychology interesting is it's just like a hard science. It's systematic, it's empirical, and we are interested as psychologists in controlling and or changing behavior. And when we talk about the goals of psychology, there are really four things that we want to be able to do as psychologists. We want to be able to describe, explain, predict, and control behavior. And we will talk about these in class multiple times, and I will always go back to the four goals of psychology. Why do we study something? Because we want to, or why do we study some sort of behavior? Because we want to describe, explain, predict, and control it. Let's go into a brief history of psychology. We are really going to start by looking at the ancient Greeks. Psychology really started with Plato and Aristotle. Now, if you've had me for government or you've studied government, you know that Aristotle was huge in terms of the philosophical backgrounds of kind of how the United States government started. But Aristotle was also huge in the study of psychology. Western philosophy came about during the ancient Greeks, or the ancient Greek times. We look first at Plato. Plato is a student of Socrates, and he was interested in the moral philosophy, and really did not like the natural sciences like physics and really biology, but essentially he thinks of us and our behavior as more of a philosophical idea. He says that we're born with this complex knowledge, and that essentially we need to learn, or we need to reflect to discover that knowledge within ourselves. Aristotle, who was Plato's student, believed that knowledge can be acquired through experience or learning, but learning in terms of Plato versus Aristotle is two different things, and we'll spend a whole unit talking about what learning is. We move from there into a new wave of philosophy and philosophers who thought about psychology and behavior. We look at the French philosopher named René Descartes, and that's not Descartes, that's Descartes, but he really focused on the mind. And he believed that a gland we have in our brains, the pineal gland, is essentially the connection between our soul, that thing that Plato was talking about, and that holds all of our knowledge, and the body, or essentially our behavior. He also suggested that it could be scientifically studied. It can be the scientific method could be used to study it. So essentially there we see a root or roots in the natural sciences of biology and physiology. From René Descartes, we move to pseudoscience. And pseudoscience just means fake science. But essentially what Franz Gall did in the late 1700s is he wanted to look at the skull, and I'm not talking about the brain, I'm talking about the skull, and essentially look at the knots and the bumps on the skull, and he measured those, and he would figure out our emotions and our character and our personality and our thoughts based on these bumps that are located. Now we know that this is a fake science, but essentially it is a huge step towards neuropsychology.